that we aren't doing already in some other way, and what informational resources are our students and faculty not already getting some way that we can only get with all of this stuff. What?
Anybody want to take a stab at that?
Can you ask the question again?
What's the point?
What's the point of?
It's of all this social media, Web 2.0 stuff in furthering our basic goal of training lawyers and supporting I'm a librarian, reference librarian, Loyola New Orleans, supporting my faculty and their scholarship and training our students are our two goals.
I asked that in the session yesterday, which was, we divided up into small groups.
Yeah, that's where it came up. I think that we didn't get back to answering that.
It came up, a lot of people have the same question. We have the same question.
Okay, yeah.
The answer that I got didn't really satisfy me, and that was that the reason for using Facebook and Twitter and the like is because that's what students are using, and therefore I need to use it in order to communicate with my students.
So that inmates are running the asylum. That's the impression.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See, I don't think that's true.
No.
I think my students know where to go to get my communications. So
we don't go teach the class at their house or at their undergraduate campus, or let them use books that they have already.
Well, say there are some areas in the law school that are using those effectively, and they're in marketing.
Yeah, that was
so that's alumni development and pre-enrollment. So there are some areas that you can see the direct elements.
Yeah. And that's one thing I took for that session yesterday was the story about the University of Arizona, I think it was, class of 2012 Facebook page, and they got a call at the dean's office, why are 90% of your new students male? Because it was all just new students who were guys who founded this Facebook page. So if your school didn't have an official Facebook, Twitter, whatever presence, they probably should, so that they can at least counter that and say, no, this is our official page, all this is not.
But even with an official page, it's like people add, whoever wants to add ads, it can still just be all the guys that add, so it's, I don't know. I think we have the same problem. We're throwing all these things up. Like, we have an alumni Facebook page and a accepted students one, and I feel like a lot of schools are just throwing them up to throw them up. But it's like, are you really getting any real value? Are we really getting a ton of, are we reaching alumni that we weren't reaching before? Like, we're not getting any new data off of them. Like maybe we can advertise an event or two that they might not otherwise have heard of, and. I think that's the goal is like, maybe, as a marketing tool, same thing with the incoming ones, but I don't know that it's really working out the way yet. That I don't think any of the schools, because I went to that one where we all broke into groups, and it's just like a lot of schools are trying to do things, but it's like I don't know, what they're getting out of it yet. Like I haven't heard anybody that's like, oh man, I did this Facebook thing and it's so successful because we made this much money, our donations went up, or our students that wouldn't have come here came here anyway. Like retention was, So I don't, and I don't really know,
But I think it's a good marketing tool because young people are using technology like that, and they care about. We have a faculty member who graduated a year and a half ago, and he has a Facebook page. It's really interesting. The comments he put out. He puts things that are relevant to law, but also to his personal life. And he has a huge number. I think I saw he had like 7,000 friends, and they're all seem to be communicating about what he's doing and how he's doing it. So I think universities can use this as a marketing tool to stay relevant and stay abreast of what young people are doing, because they aren't doing the things that they did when I was around.
It seems like it's almost like more successful when it's just done like naturally, naturally. Like Facebook is a natural flowing thing. Like students, they add their friends, and if they like a teacher, they'll probably add their teacher maybe, like naturally. So like that professor will have 7,000 friends on his personal account. But I feel like if you go out and you make like a faculty sanctioned Facebook site, you're gonna have like 20 people, because it's like you're like students. I don't think students want to be tricked, into using something that they use for fun, like. It's fun for them probably to like add, their teacher and part of it is seeing their personal life. I think it's kind of the whole, it's sometimes it's unfortunate that blend, but I think that's part of the appeal, right? Like I'm on the same I'm on my faculty member's page, I'm on the same page as his friends or his, whatever he's got going on, and whether that's good or bad, but it doesn't seem to like carry over when people try to, I haven't seen it carry over too successfully when people have sanctioned ones, like, you know, like I don't see them as having as many friends as that one professor that, because we have professors, we have like our director, our like dean of IT, he has like tons, he has like so many alumni. He has more alumni on his personal Facebook page than I'm sure we probably have on any like sanctioned one that we have, you know, and if he sends out something about an event, you know, it'll probably go to a lot of people, but it's his.
I hope he's a happy faculty member then.
He's, you know,
he might wield a lot
he's
of
been at
power
the law
there.
school, he's not a faculty member, he's
If the dean crosses him and
but
he rallies his
well,
minions
it's true,
up
yeah,
and
if
says,
he
"Hey,
gets, he's been there, you know, he's been there like 15,
can you imagine
20
that?
You don't think about that, but it's true. It's true if somebody, if the school pissed him off and he, you know,
That's
if they let him go or something,
hadn't
what has
thought
he got to
about
do? He's got to
that.
write one post to everybody and be like,
It's interesting, yeah.
he's got to do one comment and be like, Hofstra just screwed me. You've all known me for 20 years. They just, you know, I just got screwed by, for whatever reason, or I have, and now that went out to alumni for like 2 decades, you know.
The dean
So-
scheduled me for 8 a.m. on a Friday, and I
Yeah.
just can't make
Yeah,
it,
so,
and
I know.
I don't, you know, I may go to another school, and all of a sudden the dean gets, what,
I don't
maybe
think it's that
10%? No, I just think there's unintentional
Yeah.
possible use of these.
But I don't think it's that bad. He sends out,
No,
he sends
no.
out something that says, you know, Hofstra
No.
screwed me. Half the people are gonna write back and say, you know, this isn't the right form for that, buck up.
Yeah.
Well, we just had that happen with one of the library secretaries who's a part-time law student. She basically was bitching because once again Stetson went back below 100. And she was like joking about, you know, third-tier schools and stuff. And she got more comments saying, this isn't the right format for this shit than she did. People going, yeah, it just sucks. So, I mean, I don't think that's a big problem. When I ran through the other day and found like every law library I could find on Facebook, there's no content.
No, there's not much.
There is virtually no content. I'm trying to make an argument to my director
Yeah.
about our Facebook account and what we should do with it. I have nothing to, I can't say anything.
Now, I agree with what Andrew's saying in that, you know, if you see people's profiles, you're getting honest information. Not everyone's going to fill out a survey, but they're going to post their opinions in that area. So that's valuable. The only issue is there's so many social networking sites that keep popping up. How do you know which one's going to last? And if you're going to build a foundation and then make a presence on it, how do you know when it's no longer valuable anymore and when to move on to another one? It's just, there's so many trends, it's too hard to track. So.
Well, it's actually easy to answer that question. Some of the things that exist today are gonna go away and some new things are going to appear.
Yeah, that's just the way it works. Yeah.
So the real question is, how do you negotiate your identity for when things settle down? And Danae Boyd, who's at a Berkman, you know, basically has written a lot of papers about the idea that teenagers use MySpace and Facebook as a way to negotiate their identity as they're growing into adolescence, or out of adolescence. But what I realize now is that it's not just her. We all are negotiating our online identities because we're not sure how to present ourselves, and our institutions are doing the same thing. But who here believes that what we're doing now is going to be the same thing that we're doing a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years from now? We are in a time of great experimentation, innovation, or, if you don't like it, chaos and confusion. But it will plateau. I don't know when though.
Yeah, that's,
You know, because I still think the basic infrastructure hasn't finished messing with us. We still don't have ubiquitous wireless access. I was going to pull out all the devices I have. I have about 5 devices here. You know, and those need to consolidate, please, into one thing. You know, preferably a chip in my head, but that's probably not going to happen.
That'll be the hot topic
Well,
in 10 years.
I mean, there are more services now that are trying to tie in all the different networking groups together. I mean, ultimately, that's just what's going to become. There's going to be something that's going to take the reins and be one unified resource that people can access so many different ones from.
Yeah.
You can maintain identity there.
That's a horrifying thought. I mean, we don't want one thing.
Well, I do if you use this analogy. In 1988, I was in graduate school, and my network and communications teacher, told us to go on the net, because there was no web, and FTP some stuff. We were doing Telnet, we were doing Gopher, and stuff like that. And I was thinking, I wish there was just like one program that did all these things. You know, and a few years later, something came out called the web, which basically did all those things in one box. So what happens is technology gets complicated and sort of cones out, and then it consolidates and cones back in. And that's, I think, going to happen with our identity management.
Well, just like the instant messaging. You know, I had an AIM account, but I can't talk to my Yahoo friends.
Yeah.
So then you add Adium and Digsby and Trillion, all of the resources, we can talk to everybody with one.
Like, I'm like less concerned with though. I mean, as far as the social networking sites go, like I'm less concerned with what's the next one going to be next year, because you can always move. It's not hard to set these things up. It's like, all right, Facebook goes away, something else comes up, you move. But I think it's more. It's like the point that I don't know his name, but that you brought up,
Brian.
Brian. That it's like, is it almost worth doing at that level? Like, what is the value wherever it is, whether you're on Facebook or whatever? Like, is coming up, and I don't know the answer. We're trying it all. We have sites. We're putting it out there, but is it? Nobody's putting content on. It's not. Nobody's keeping content up to date. And is it? Are we getting a marketing value from it? Whatever the site might be, or do students just sort of like laugh at it, like, oh, why do they? I got this from my friends in my personal life, but now they're trying to recreate the wheel and make a Facebook page. Do I even join it? Do they join it once and never look at it again? Like. Well,
why don't they put content on it?
Yeah, they should put more on it. They I don't know.
But
I think they do. I think they do put more, but it's kind of like, what do you put on it? It's like what do you? You can put your alumni events. You can put your events. But like other than that, like how often? What are you supposed to? Like the way that Facebook works is people put the content naturally, because it's like they went to a party, they talked about it, they saw a movie. It's a very like, it's not forced. It's not like somebody sitting. Students. Nobody's sitting down going, let me force myself to write like a 2-paragraph, essay about my day. It's like it either naturally happens or it naturally doesn't. Like some people really like to do that. They put but do we as an institution, as like administrators and faculty members, do we have that natural? Is it natural? Like, is it if a faculty member is updating their their non-personal whatever, is it happening naturally? If the admissions office and the alumni office is updating things, does it have that natural feel that you're used to when you're on Facebook, or does it have hey, come to our event? It's
public relations feel.
My alumni at my
notice.
college recently found me, and I regret it terribly.
Yes.
Now I can't get them to shut up or turn off or unsubscribe or anything, because they're relentless.
Your college, yeah.
Yeah, and I ain't giving them money. They're rich.
I don't give my undergraduate institution money, no matter how much email I get from them, no matter how much I see them on Facebook.
Well,
it doesn't make me want to give them money. What would have made me want to give them money is if they treated me better when I was there.
That is it.
And once you leave, but there's other ways I'm sure to get money, like if that's not the case, but like seeing that my undergraduate institution has a Facebook page doesn't make me forget that I was unhappy when I went there, and I don't want to give them money. Like they took enough from me,
No.
So, is there anything that they can write on there that will make me go back every day and check? Like so far, not really. Like so, I'm not really curious as to, the only thing I would get out of it is reconnecting with, like old classmates, which happens naturally anyway on Facebook. Without that, like I don't need my undergraduate or graduate institution's page as a way to connect to my classmates. I have Facebook they find me. I have elementary school classmates that find me.
Well, and at this point, the whole world is going through a reconnection with what happened to them 10 or 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm a little overwhelmed by that. I don't want to
No,
reconnect
it is.
with
I don't like
somebody.
it either, but it's happening. But it's happening without borders. It's not happening. It's not like, oh, I didn't have to join my like LPS 203 elementary school page and then become friends with my like 4th grade people. They just find me. There's no wall. It's like Facebook and those things. There's no walls. It's like people I went to college with, high school, junior high, people I met like yesterday. Like they all find you the same way. They search for your name. That's it. Like nobody's like going through this. So I don't know. I don't know what it all means. I just don't.
What's your name?
Andrew.
Andrew what?
Wilson.
Andrew Wilson?
Yeah,
Well, that's a pretty bad name to search for.
Yeah,
My
that's
name's
why.
John Mayer.
John.
Good luck finding me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably quite a, yeah. If you have a nice, like, hard to search name, and sometimes people still find me.
Oh, yeah.
I have a very common name, but people still find me, and then it's like, what do you do if you don't want to add them, you know? And that's, you know, like if you're, even if you're like a faculty member, like, what if you don't want to add your students, you know? Like, what if you want to add some and not all of them? I don't know, you know. I don't want to add all
Pick one.
all of my coworkers.
All right, I kind of feel like we beat that topic into the ground. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So, when is no appropriate in technology?
You're willing to be fired.
Really? I have an email from an IT person that
I
says.
don't totally understand the
"Because we
question.
can do it,
No,
doesn't
no
mean we can
from
do it."
an IT person to a faculty or administrator,
Never.
or a dean to a faculty member who's asked for something that's beyond the pale of what a hospital should provide.
I don't know.
Okay,
Question
okay.
for discussion. When is no appropriate in technology? Do we want to grab that and run with it?
I've got an anecdote.
I'll take a stab
Yeah.
at it.
Well, go ahead.
Go with
Brian
Brian.
first.
Go with
Our dean spent $6,000 on a Mac G4 huge screen, camcorder, Final Cut Pro, and a bunch of stuff to a faculty member who had no clue how to use anything like that. So it's like giving your grandmother a Maserati when she can't drive to the grocery store.
Senior faculty member?
No,
Recent hire?
no, tenured, but she just gets her claws in an idea and thinks that she should be able to do this.
I know it sucks to say this, but when you're paying somebody mid to high six figures, $6,000 to make them happy, done.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the nature of the egos of faculty. Do you want to disagree with me on that?
Well, I think that, I don't know, I mean, there's not enough information. The question is, why did that particular faculty member ask for it?
She had made a video on a tax issue like 10 years earlier with Campus Media. She didn't make it. She like wrote it and had a student help her with it and had Campus Media do it. And somebody had told her that desktop video editing is the way to go in Mac G4 and Final Cut Pro. She was one who didn't check her own email. She had her secretary do it. At least at the time, she checks her own email now. So to keep them happy, yeah. But to me, you've got to.
I didn't say like it.
No, yeah.
But it's the reality of the status system inside of law
Yeah.
schools.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think that, I mean, if you have unlimited resources, I guess, so what? But most of us don't. And so the question really is, what's the need for it? Whether she can do it or he can do it or not really isn't the issue. Do they have the initiative to attempt to do it and to do something that would be effective, beneficially for the institution? I think if you're going to try something and fail, so what? If you're trying, if you're going to buy it, it's going to sit on a desk. That's different. And so I don't have enough information.
Right.
Unless you're a part of the conversation with the dean, you may not have it either.
Yeah.
I don't think your approach makes sense. I think it's fiscally
I
unsound.
didn't say it made sense.
Say-
I just said it's the truth.
You're not there to make them happy. They're there to do a job. And when you get beyond that, I think it's misguided.
I don't disagree.
This is
I think
probably a unique worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So,
But no,
And
it's
like
not that
Michelle, she's one
uncommon.
of my
It's
best friends.
yeah, that stuff.
It's okay though.
I think it's sometimes it's got to be somebody's responsibility, and I think that it should be somebody on the administration side, like IT, or to say no, because it's like the situation he's talking about. Like somebody should be responsible to say. Somebody should be responsible to say no. This is like a $6,000 thing you're not going to use. Like let's start you off. Take a class first and see, or we don't have money for that. Like, and I think that outside of like education. Like if you in like a corporate environment, it's really, like project management, the way that you take in new projects and take in new purchases are much more organized because it's much more clear, to say, okay, well, it's worth the investment of buying a video or whatever and having a team do that because we're going to be able to sell that product or measure that value. And, you lose that in, I think, education and to a large extent, I think, from what I've seen in
Oh, yeah.
law schools, because there's this thing, it's like the professors kind of have this, I want something, I want it now, and most of the people making the decisions are also faculty or buy into that idea, so it just sort of comes like, if somebody wants something, they get it, and I don't think that's always, and then, you end up with like, too many, you don't have enough resources to do anything well, you're just doing so many things, So I do think that it makes sense to say no. I think it makes sense in any thing to say no to, just because people are asking you for something they want doesn't necessarily mean, you should say yes to every little thing, because it's not always best. Sometimes it's better for people to learn how to do themselves, or to learn how to do things cheaper, or to wait until you get more people on board, But I think somebody that's not a faculty member needs to be removed enough around that to see the big picture, to say, this is actually like a poor purchase, you're not going to use this. Like, you have a campus media department that 10 years ago was able to help this professor, why can't they help them today and save the schools money?
Well, I mean, that said, we spent a whole bunch of money on this, like, really weird thing, is that through all these meetings, and then we have Ellen Podgore, so it's like, you can't, it's hit or miss, and to say no arbitrarily, just as a matter of the amount of money or the amount of dedication the person may or may not have, is sort of stupid. I mean, you have to sort of assess what, it's more than just a simple question, it's not just yes or no, it's what do you need to do this, what do you need this for, and will something else actually work better?
Exactly, sales. I mean, you have to sell an alternative.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not about the no, it's about helping them understand that there are other alternatives that are more cost effective.
Yeah, I'd love to throw out that damn important thing, but it works.
To go back to the question, when is no appropriate? I would basically say never. You never say no. You say what's going on. You can get more information. But to be the devil's advocate, what I meant by blowing $6,000 and why it's okay is as a dean, you've got to pick your battles. And sometimes picking a $6,000 battle, is easier than picking, well, for instance, I visited half a dozen schools that have spent $250,000 on courtroom renovations that were nothing but alumni tour stops. And that was perfectly fine with everybody in the entire institution.
That was the object of that.
And I've worked in the administration of law schools, and so I've seen that they can, they're perfectly willing to blow an awful lot of money for absolutely no reason, but except for a reason that's beyond my pay grade, you might say.
Yeah. And what is it, like faculty retention? Like why with your example? So you're saying like to give the $6,000 and give the guy the video editing for the dean makes sense because it could be a faculty retention issue, and that's something I'm starting to realize a lot more of. And they don't tell you that outright. I think like that. It's as important as it is, but I think it is. I think that, and I feel like that's okay if that's the nature of what it is. It should just be communicated, not just to really high grade pay, but anybody making these decisions needs to know, like, one of your goals, just like student retention is, that's sort of like a more of a no-brainer, like you make your students happy so they don't leave, and that's sort of, communicated, even to my student assistants, like, that's the kind of thing, hey, don't, be rude to a student, they're gonna leave. It sounds like faculty retention is just as, if it's just as important, then that should be communicated to everybody in an organization. Like, sometimes things might fall outside of the realm of logic, but faculty retention is important and keeping them happy is important. That just should be communicated. If that's like it probably took you, just like I feel like it's taken me, but it probably takes people a while of working in a law school to realize
4 or 5 years for me.
It took, like I'm starting, I've been in law school now for about 4 or 5 years, and I am starting to realize that, but I didn't know it my first day, and I should have. Like, my first day, somebody should have sat down and said, the reason that we're going to do the extra mile for not just students, but for faculty, because faculty retention is is an important thing that we need to worry about. I just think I shouldn't have to nobody should have to guess. New hires shouldn't have to figure it out.
But the last thing I would say, but then that just goes back to the pick your battles, because then if they say we're trying to retain this person, but then you end up telling somebody else no, then it's like, well, what is that saying? But I'll leave that.
It's not just about faculty retention,
I know.
I mean, I'm a tenured full professor, so it's It's about not pissing me off.
Yeah.
Well,
It's about not making me
Right.
be a real asshole,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm
you're
going
gonna
to be
angry.
around
Yeah,
for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You've got 7,000 people in your Facebook
One at a time, one at a time.
I'm around for the rest of Elle's life.
Yes, and in fact, I'm in a situation right now where I want to tell Professor Wiseman no on something. We're putting a new utility server on him, and he has access to the old utility server, and he has scripts running on it. And I would like to say to him, no, you can't get into the new utility server.
Give him a cloud account.
Well, and but no is not a very creative answer. You're not
Well
looking,
said.
You're not looking for the way to meet the needs, and so I'm going to find a way to meet Professor Wiseman's needs once I understand them better, and we'll get it worked out. But it's not that I don't want him to have access on there. It's just that every time I go in there, I break something of his. And I'm tired of breaking his stuff, so we'll work it out. But yeah.
Well said. All right, next question, and it's mine. So the question is, of course, about this conference, what should we change? What should we keep the same? We'll just do some bullet points for this, and so we can go on to the next one. So what should we change? Or
I don't know that we're going to have time.
Oh.
No, I think that there's two extremes. There's two extremes in conference planning, and so I'll just pick one aspect of the conference. I think that continuing legal education, the way they do it across the country, is a team of people gets together that's picked by whatever, the bar, whoever. They bring them together, and they have brainstorming sessions on topics. And then they find those topics, and they call people. We think you'd be great to speak on X. Will you speak on X? And they put those in there. That's one extreme. The way Callie does it and academia does it, which is nuts, is you guys provide the topic, and then we pick the topics and plug in. I think both of those are wrong. I think it should be in the middle. I think there should be a portion where you pick the topics, and then there should be a portion where people submit topics. And I think you would have a more robust program that way. And I think you need to couple it with, what I don't seem to see looking on the Cali website is there's any feedback, even though the mechanism's there. And as much as I hate it being high tech, you need to come in here and make everybody give you feedback on the speakers and the topics and things like that. Because if you don't do that, you have no feedback to become better next year.
Good point.
And so that's just one, and I'll shut up with that.
No, that's great. That's very valuable. What should we keep the same, change, or keep the same? Pick
I like scheduling, I like the number of sessions, I think the layout of it is very easy to manage. And 5 simultaneous sessions, I'm not missing a whole lot. I can pick the ones that are very focused on what I do, so I think that's a good compromise.
Good.
I think the naming of the topics was really interesting. Something said,
Please talk about what the title of your session is.
yes, you're gonna go watch something and you end up and especially if you're stuck in the middle of the room and you can't speak out and you're sitting there and they're not talking about what you thought they were gonna talk. So that reminded me.
Drives me crazy. Drives me crazy. And I warn people about that all the time. I deal with speakers and they're like, I'm gonna talk about the Kindle, and they show up and go, well, I changed my mind about that. And, well, don't do that. Patrick, we'll get back to you.
No. We used to, the thing that I think is missing in this conference that used to be there and that doesn't seem to be there anymore, and I don't know what to do about it, is faculty attendance.
Oh, yes.
There are very, very few faculty here. When you look at the attendance list, it's better than half IT, than lots of library folks, and just a few faculty members. And in fact, most of the faculty members who are here are on board. Which is why they're here. And we used to have faculty tracks and IT tracks.
We do this time, although
so maybe if
yeah. But even when we clearly identify faculty-related stuff, we can't seem to get them to show up.
I know. That's what I'm. So that wasn't a very good idea. It just.
No. It's a great criticism.
I mean, I just wish
it's an
to
ongoing.
get more faculty here because I think they need to be more exposed to the use of technology in teaching and stuff.
Oh, I agree.
And it's hard to just proselytize at home.
Can I add something to what you said? Because there's a disconnect. If you don't have the faculty here, and I'm faculty, but when the IT guys go talk to faculty. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And so, unless you're part of the generation that loves this stuff like we do, if you don't get them here, then it's not the same when the IT guy's talking to you about it than one of your peers is talking to you about it. So you've got to, I think you're exactly right, you've got to A, make it attractive to faculty, and then market it to faculty. And then, year after year, what we're seeing is this, and you'll see this. It's like, you know what, I don't want to go to whatever, I want to go to Cali. And that's what, I think you're exactly right. And there has to be a concerted effort to do that. And I haven't seen that over the past years, only 25 years, but I haven't seen that. So I think you're exactly right.
Andrew?
I'm pretty happy with everything. You know, the titles thing is a little confusing, you know, but you know, sometimes you know, you're like a little confused. You're like, oh, it's not, you know, and then you don't want to leave, and you know, but you're not really interested. You didn't. It's not exactly what you thought it was going to be, so, or it's not applicable to you. Or, you know, but other than that, I mean, you know, I think the layout's great. I think the scheduling is great. I think it's the perfect amount of sessions. I think the breaks are the perfect amount of time. So, and I like this building. You know, I think a lot of it is where you end up. You know, like in terms of how close everything is together. But
Yeah.
I think you guys lucked. You know, for this year, it seems like really lucked out. Like everything's really close together. And I like that.
Sasha. Yeah, I pretty much like just about everything. I'm from Canada, and I'm a pure IT guy. I don't deal a lot with librarians, and we're actually outsourced by faculty of law. But I like the way the schedule works, and I think a few years ago there used to be sessions duplicated. They used to be the same
Pretty
session.
rarely. Mostly
which
the vendors duplicate their sessions.
vendors like. Anyway, I think it's sometimes for certain sessions it wouldn't hurt if you could. Certain schedule, I'd like to be at 2 sessions and you can't. But the great thing is everything's recorded, and I'm planning actually to demonstrate, to put up a few videos up for the faculty and staff when we get back and demonstrate on some of the sessions. So archiving and recording, I think it's a great thing. And organization is great. Good concept.
My name is Frank, USF. Actually, this is my first class. And
Oh, first one?
first one.
A newbie.
A newbie. And I actually started in my position a month and a half ago, so I have a lot on the plate right now. So what I actually do like is something like this, to be honest, where I'm in where people are stuck in a room with me. And I might not necessarily, you know, I might not be able to speak with at length, but also what he's saying from the recording aspect. If you can share a lot of great ideas in this open environment, then you have stuff that I can reference later on. So I would like to see more stuff like this.
Cool.
Personally.
And what does the student like or dislike about this conference?
Pay the help a little more.
It's out of my control.
That's true.
Earl?
I know y'all have tried several things in the past, like Birds of a Feather and the Drupal Fest and things like that, but it does seem that quite often things are shoved into an hour that could, or try to expand it to fill an hour that really would be more appropriate in a different format. Some more specific, going back to what you're doing on topics, so that's a main theme, or even something like a workshop. I'm trying to, I do web stuff, so, you know, say I evaluate at a workshop where you actually sit down and everybody goes through the steps of evaluating their websites for accessibility. And someone leads them through a guided workshop. I don't know how many other things you could come up with that you could do that sort of thing. And it may end up being a lot of work to get 8 people, you know, into a session like that lasts 4 hours. And so it may be a lot of work on your part for very little benefits. I don't know. It's a tough one, but if anybody's seen a model that works on there, I mean, this is one of the best running conferences I've ever been to. You know, I don't know that it can be done, because I would have thought that if anybody could have pulled it off, y'all would have. I know you've tried things like that. I'm sure with that. So.
All right.
I agree with lots of what's been said. I really like the conference, the size, the variety. I didn't realize that there were maybe less faculty coming than in years past. I'm curious. I'm trying to think how to proselytize. I know a few faculty at our law school would be interested in coming. Talk about program selection. I love the way it's done, because compared to the law library meeting, which is my only other example. The deadline, I think it's a week or two later now, but you've got to like be ready after this year's meeting to have an idea ready to go, and you're all inspired, and we don't have time to work it up. I'm curious, you mentioned this a couple of years ago, are you still turning down people who offer to do the same old tired type of program that we've had, or that aren't?
Yeah, I swap people away for stupid sessions.
Like,
I didn't
how many people do you have to say no to?
Fairly few.
Yeah.
I mean, and this year, I don't know, it was weird. We hardly had anybody submit a session until fairly late.
Yeah.
And so, without mentioning any particular
Sure.
sessions, a bunch of sessions that I probably would have swatted away in the past got through.
Really?
Because it was late in the game and I needed to fill the
Is it-
schedule.
and
then people overbooked with suggestions.
Oh,
And
really?
so I essentially killed the second day plenary to get 5 more sessions in. So it's a real dog's breakfast sometimes of options. What I try to do is, if I get like a bunch of people all want to talk about the same thing, I force them all to reduce their sessions to 15 minutes and be a panel. So that you get one dense hour on something, like cloud computing or flash computing or something, you know, and sometimes, and if people are real passionate about their topic, they'll push back. And they'll say, okay, you can have your hour, because you made an argument. And if people are like, yeah, that's fine, I worry because, or I feel vindicated because they weren't gonna talk, they were just gonna blah, blah, blah for an hour instead of, you know, look, it's only an hour. That should be plenty of time if you really work hard to get your material done in an organized fashion and stuff like that.
John, can I have a suggestion? It's kind of what I was talking about, not really. And we had mixed success with this in the state bar in Texas. So I can't say it's the greatest answer, but the day before, since you guys are here anyway, and you had the, you can register early, a speaker training workshop.
That's the session I thought about doing, is how to give a colleague conference session. I didn't see as many as my pet peeves this year as I have in the past.
There are some great presenters, and
Yes.
then there are some less than great presenters. And if you could get them to come, now like I said, we did with mixed success, but in some cases, if you help one, make it worth it. But you can do it the day before.
I will say, and this is, I'm not pushing back on you, but I'm okay with people with people giving bad presentations or being bad presenters, if it gives them feedback and experience to become a better presenter in the future. Because this is one of the only venues in which people in the administrative levels of IT at law schools can gain experience in presenting.
But experience, but here's the thing.
But if they don't get feedback, then they're not going to
Well,
find
that's
out.
it. It's like I used to represent a professional golfer, and she said practice isn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. If you do it wrong every time, you're just going to keep doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So the workshop would help you, hopefully, learn a few skills to become better. I mean, that's one way to give that feedback.
What I'll say about that is, the first time I presented at Gallup, which I've been here, but the day before wouldn't help me because I can't review my full presentation, but a conference session on presenting for everyone who wants to present next year, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I think a little instructional video. If I could do it anonymously, I'd put it on
Recording
YouTube.
machine out, it's all good.
You gotta wear a mask.
Yes, exactly.
Last word on
hand
what should we
puppets. I was
change
gonna
or
do hand
keep the same.
puppets.
I'm new too, so you guys can help me.
A newbie.
That's me. I'm Juju Stevens, I'm from Stetson, Hat U as we call it. But,
And she knows the professor I was talking
I
about,
do.
freaking out.
Yes.
She's an alum, and she said, oh, is that,
It's okay, what happens
my
in
God,
Cali
yes.
stays in Cali. When you're talking about the faculty issue, I have one idea, is one of the new, hot best things about faculty is the faculty development people, who are, they'd be the perfect people to contact, to get new faculty to start showing up for this. Because it is an awesome way to do this. I have always traditionally been sort of like the librarian geek with the interface with IT and translating between end users and IT. So this is great for me. I mean, it's like, I'm loving it. It's like all my users. I mean, but, so I think that would help, is like specifically marketing to those faculty development people, which Ellen Pepper just quit as, and we have a new one. But that's a perfect vat of young faculty members just talking to coming and sort of fresh blood, and it is a great place for first-time presenters. Let's see, it should be at sea level. I'm old and fat. I can't help it. I don't get up off the ground very often anymore. And I like like the variation. I mean, obviously, I recognize some of the comments that y'all have made. I think that some of the presentations are certainly a little uneven or a little underdeveloped. And I don't know whether, you know, to what extent you work with the presenters and say, you know, you need to flesh this out some more, or whether there's any way to do that, or.
None at all. I mean, it's not like they'll send me their presentation.
Audition reels.
But on the other hand, when I sit through some of them, I go, shit, I could do that. I'm better than that. So, you know, that's an advantage, frankly. I mean,
It's a competitive marketplace.
yeah.
Let the invisible hand improve the quality of the presentation. Right.
Just one thing, if I can add, would there be maybe a suggestion to have the whole sessions recorded on DVD and made available the last day, maybe, I don't know, or shipped or made available for download? If someone does, I don't know.
Don't have the staff.
That's it, because half of us will probably do that download manually, spend hours trying to put up a video with all the sessions.
But are you doing that, John? Aren't these media sites, they're gonna go on the Kelly website or not?
Yeah, but I don't have the staff to process over 70 hours of video, which no matter how fast the machine you got or the development process, you know, it takes time.
Yeah,
A lot of time.
but I mean, doesn't that serve your purpose? Because
Right.
you can stream it from the web.
Why do you need it on the DVD?
Yeah.
To give it to faculty and staff when they get back, I think they'll, it's easier way for them to.
Some people
Put
probably.
it next to the
do.
Cali CD.
That's,
You mean the one that goes in the government?
to me, the people who most benefit from these sessions are
It's a great
probably
coaster.
comfortable with watching it streaming, don't you think?
You may be right,
I
but
don't know.
again.
I don't know,
there's-
yeah, I just think that's quickly an unnecessary step, taking something that's already streaming online and making it into an artifact that you have to hand somebody, put in the machine.
Right, we've got 3 more. How to reduce printing at the law school.
That's one of the sessions you reject probably every year.
No more student printing sessions.
Yes.
Charge them more.
Give them all a Kindle.
Give them all a Kindle.
Yeah, you can't print from that. It's really useful.
Our perfect solution is that we have the print accounts with numbers, so they have to pay the business office, and then they have to go to IT to go authenticate the amount of money they paid in, so if after 5 they're screwed. And that actually does seem to help, other than Westlawn license printing.
I think you've changed the culture.
Yeah.
And we're a ways from that, but I think you have to change the culture. Eventually you'll get there, but
Our
it's,
kids are real good with that.
it's tough. Yeah, that's tough. I wanted to go completely paperless with our school, and I thought the reign of terror was coming down from the administration. I said that, and I'm getting them there, but we're not going to be paperless for a while.
I did it by accident with one of my classes. I just ranted at them. I said, how many of you printed out the syllabus? And a whole bunch of hands went up. I said, why did you do that? It's online, and there's all kinds of hypertext links from it, and you've got it on paper, and it changes, you know, and so you've wasted the paper. And I just sort of got pissed off with them. But briefly, like that, you know. The following semester, I was teaching a different course, but it was a constitutional law course again, so I had some students who'd been in that first course, and I had the, I made a really stupid mistake, which wiped out my spring 2009 syllabus and replaced it with a summer 2000. No, I did that. Replaced it with the summer 2002 syllabus or something. I thought, oh, what the hell have I done? It wasn't too, I mean, I was able to recover it, but I went into class and I said, so, did any of you by any chance print out the syllabus so I can remind myself of what? And one of them said, well, no, you told us not to. You got so ticked off the last time we did. No, well, okay, then I guess the message was conveyed.
So yeah, maybe it's just as simple as reminding faculty that they can distribute PDFs to their students and encourage them not to print it themselves. But I think you're right, it's a culture change thing. All right, I'll pick one. Oops, you get 2 left.
Which class you can be? Skip it.
What type of AV systems or services do you use? Want me to skip that one? No. What type of AV systems or services?
Not to print, you know.
All
Just-
kinds.
Well, the question, I was pressured, I was under pressure, you wasn't.
Right.
But really,
It's a topic for discussions. You don't have to like treat it as an exam.
Well,
How
why
would
are you
you
walking
rate
around
that
with-
question? Everybody with an
Well, really, it's just a question, like I said, to give you, I came from main campus ITX, so this is a whole different culture now, where before I was like, hey, we have classroom AV, and they can take care of all that, they're in charge of all the classrooms. Now, I'm in law school, and they're like, oh yeah, we support the classrooms. So I'm like, oh, great. And I liked a lot of the resources through the discussions that people brought in. A lot of it is, taking the data and what to do with it, but a lot of it I want to know, like, what are some of the setups people have? Like, it seems like everyone already has something in place, whereas I'm trying to, theorize things to put in place. Whether, I use like the touch screens, I have like AMX, and we use Anderson Audio Visual, but I was just trying to get an idea how people's setups were, just to make decisions.
This may not be the perfectly best forum for you to gather that information. Do you know about the Technoids mailing list? Do you know about the Technoids mailing list?
There's lots of responses.
Technoids is where there's 600 or 700 people who work in law school IT hang out. If you drop a question in there, like, what y'all doing in this, you'll get, a dozen or two specific answers. You
What
could even
school
just
is that?
do a survey monkey and put a link up, and you'll get 30 or 40 people.
Which one?
And the archive
University of San Francisco.
Okay.
The archive, the Technoids
Who's
archive.
there that
search
doesn't know
will
about
see who-
technoids and didn't tell them?
No, we run into people who don't know what technology is.
There's only
Discovery of the community is
Interesting.
all
There's
the
only
time.
2 people,
Interesting.
myself
Okay.
and one other specialist. I don't have an AV person.
Yeah, technoids.net, I think you can sign up from there. And this,
Yeah, there's
Yeah, if you ask the same question, you'll get a lot of.
Well, I'll definitely look at
It's out of
that.
Cornell, right? So
Yeah.
just Google it, you'll find it.
yeah, technoids has been around
I
for.
got that answer.
Yeah,
Really
technoids has
good
been around for
resource. It's a
15
great
years.
resource.
No, 20 years almost.
Really?
It's a really old community, and we show it. All right, great. Last question, and we got 10 minutes left, so we might break a little early. How can we better help students make the transition from school to practice? And it looks like the person who wrote this also provided answers. So I'm not going to read them. I'll see if they come up in the answers. How can we better help students make the transition from school to practice?
I think, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I don't think we know what practice is. And honestly, we can walk out in the hall, and if we go to AALS, there are lots of vendors who will tell us what practice is. And as we think of technology, how are we preparing you? I think that we're ordering from a menu that they'll never see.
For a meal that we're not going to eat.
Right. And that they can't afford. And so preparing them for practice technology-wise, doing time and billing and those sorts of things and that discipline that goes in with it. But in terms of, I'm thinking, why do we even show them Lexus and Westlaw anymore? I don't see the need in our first year curriculum, except that that's the culture that we have.
Inertia, yeah.
And so we think we're prepping them for practice because these are the tools you're going to see in practice. But the tools you need in practice are, how do I do my research? How do I evaluate my resources? And the delivery vehicle can be whatever you want.
That's the faculty's fault. That's not IT's fault. The faculty should take charge to revamp curriculum and to revamp what the goals are, and then go to IT and say, here are our needs, you need to fill those needs, how do we do that? That's not an IT question, in my opinion, it's not an IT question or an IT problem, it's a faculty question, a faculty problem. I agree with everything you said, but it's not something that an IT person should be contemplating. It's something that faculty should
I
contemplate.
posed that question, but I posed it as a Kelly question, not as an IT question.
Oh,
This isn't an IT conference, this is the Kelly conference.
Right.
I know it sometimes.
Well, when he
looks
says,
as
how
if
can
the IT
we better
conference-
help, he doesn't necessarily mean how can IT help, right?
Well, no.
The we could be a.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And we who think about the use of technology in teaching, how can we?
But it come from the faculty if that change has been made, but if you ask the faculty, it's going to be, we're a scholarly profession, we're not a trade school.
they're wrong.
I know. I agree they're wrong, but that's the answer you get from the faculty.
We're training lawyers, I'm not training
I know,
scholars.
yeah.
But
I know.
we're not hiring from practice as much as we used to. And if we are hiring from practice, we're hiring from a very elite practice.
Yes,
And
that's
so
exactly.
the idea that you put the sign up and I'm doing trusts and estates in Podunkville and, you know, that's gonna
Yeah.
be my bread and butter and these are the people I love and work with and all that.
You're
We're
absolutely
not
right.
hiring anybody with that experience.
That's a culture change.
Right, exactly.
And so, but you're right, you have the people that, it's like at our school, if you haven't actually practiced law for a period of time, we don't have a set period of time, but usually 4 or 5 years, we're not even looking at you. And, I mean, we've hired people with 10 years, with 20 years of practice experience. So if you go and you're teaching litigation or you're teaching trust and estate, you've done it. Because this idea that you clerk for a judge, for no offense to anybody, but the idea that you clerk for a judge 2 years and you know how to be a lawyer is ridiculous.
What school are you?
It's ridiculous.
What school are you?
Duncan School of Law. And I just think that's, I mean, but I'm biased. I came out of practice. I was a
Well, yeah,
litigator
you
for
guys,
15 years.
I mean, you're the outlier.
So,
No, no, no.
you know,
And the word and practice of law is not like some unitary thing. I mean, what is practice? It's 50 different professions, actually.
You're a Protestant.
Absolutely it is.
You know,
But if you've never done any of them,
well, right.
any of them,
Pick one.
you know, but I'm going to teach you contracts. Oh, I've never actually done a real contract, but I'm going to teach you. I just think it's ludicrous. And that model, you know, and I'll tell you, they're great. We hired some people at my former school out of practice that nobody on the market would touch, and they are rock stars. Rock stars. Hardest working, most brilliant. We got a guy.
They have a job.
They have a job. But I'm going to tell you, we got a guy, he has the best-selling practice for practitioners book that West produces, the best in the world. He's one of the 3 authors, okay? And yet, you go to, is there any Harvard in here? I want to pick my school's not in here. You go to some schools, that's not scholarship.
No.
You know, forgive my language, are we taping this?
Screw it.
But that's,
It'll be on
Wrong.
YouTube in about 50 minutes.
that's wrong.
I wonder who said that.
If you look at Rate My Professor, and you look particularly at the first year classes, which is what the students have to say, they all say, "Oh, this is great, this one practiced, and
Yeah.
this one sucks, they
Yeah.
didn't practice."
Yeah.
I mean, and that really is a very common
Yeah.
observation by the students.
I agree.
Well,
But
one of
again,
the-
that's a culture change. Nothing we can fix, but
Right,
it's a
and
culture
it's
change.
a
I
generational
don't see
thing,
it changing.
because I
I
think
see it
that,
getting worse. Because
I don't
US
know. I don't know. I don't know.
feels that.
Depends on the clinic. I mean, some clinics are excellent. The problem with clinics I see is really a practical problem. They're so narrow because they require so many resources. You know, maybe it's a criminal clinic, and they may do wonderful work. The problem is, if I want clinical experience and I have no interest in criminal, I don't get the benefit of that, and it takes so many resources. Very few schools can have clinics with 100 different, you know, so the problem with the clinical model is not that it's a bad model. They're great, they're wonderful, but they're narrow in scope.
Right.
I like the externship model because if you develop a good externship model, somebody comes in, they say, well, I want to do criminal. We're going to put you with a criminal judge and a criminal lawyer. We're going to do these things. Well, I want family law. We're going to put you with a family law practitioner, a family law judge. I like trust and estate. So you have a broader scope. So I think clinical's excellent. It's just, it's narrow, and we have students that have such a broad range of interests. And we say, well, the only experience you're going to get is in this one narrow model, and that's unfortunate. But I think schools are changing that. I think we're seeing schools that are broadening and moving to more of an externship model in many respects because it does offer a broader range.
That's what
we
we
had
do.
something interesting happen in 2 faculty, both, 30-plus years. Their sabbatical year was in practice, and it was, 4-person plans firm and things like that. And I thought, that's great, because now you're seeing, when I worked, back in 1975, this is how we did it, and that's how I've been teaching it, but it's not like that anymore, is it? So they have a much, I think, a better perspective on what they can tell the students about what it's going to be like versus what you hear at a local bar meeting and those sorts of things. That comes at a cost, though. They can do that because they've achieved a certain status, but you can't take your first sabbatical year and go work for. You have to have whatever your schedule is and those sorts of things. And so it's that person with that status who's able to do that.
Yeah, well, the 20%, or the ones that spend the 20% actually still dabbling in practice or doing pro bono work or things like that, which is great. The fact that they did that is incredible, commendable. I wish,
That is
I
shocking.
think that's right. But I bet you, they're probably the only two in the country.
Did everybody get at least one question or topic that they were interested in addressed? Yes? Good. Let's break a little early because it's been a long day. See y'all tomorrow.